All right. So second visit of the day. Allison McDowell, super research performance art transmutator. In case you're wondering, I don't have a body double. This is all me, and I'm here. I don't know if you can see. I've got a little heart installation here. I've been out collecting today, and so I'm in outside of Malvern. Sorry, this is a little awkward. Yeah, so I'm outside of Malvern, Pennsylvania, off of Route 202, and I'm in a corporate center parking lot on a boulder, and because the open air prison planet gets built in the corporate parking lots in really boring places with people going out to lunch and going out to their cars and going back in, and I'm actually on a boulder in the parking lot of Philips biotelemetry center. And I had actually come out this morning because I connected with someone out in the Chester County area who also had wandered into all of this stuff through public education. And I'd been meaning for months to get out to the Vanguard campus. And that's the Vanguard investment funds, and which is out here by Malvern. And so we decided to meet up in a park, and it's kind of cool because there's a walking trail that runs alongside the corporate campus. And so we met up this morning, and we just wanted to see what we could see. And I brought my basket of stuff, and we had fun. It's a nice day. It's a little warm for September, but it's really nice out. And so we parked, and then we were walking up to the pedestrian trail. Now Vanguard has its own trail, but it's all set up, no trespassing, blah blah blah. Like with their park course, you couldn't go on that. But the main bike trail, I think it's called the Chester Valley Trail. We went down there, and as we were crossing over, you could see the creek because this trail runs along the creek. I guess it's the Chester Valley Creek, and it was quite lovely. And so of course I see this water, and I'm like, this person I've just met, I'm like, can we get down there? Before we start this thing with Vanguard, I think I'd like to go put my feet in the water because it just feels right. I'm kind of a water person, and connect with nature, see if we can find some stuff. And but what we realized is we're pretty high above the water. This is East Coast, so it's very wooded, and we're trying to find a way in without getting on a bunch of poison ivy, because there's also a lot of poison ivy here. And hopefully I didn't get poison ivy today. But we managed to find a way in. Giant 5G tower with the really ugly kind where they try to fake out their trees. So it was sort of the pole was brown and crunchy, and it had the little twiggy things on top. And so we found there was actually a little road that went into where off the path that went down to where the water was. But we had to kind of wind around, and it was very odd because this is, again, it's not really a park. I mean, it's like a recreational trail, but there were people in there all spraying. And we don't know what they were spraying or why, because it was a pretty wild natural area, but they were in there spraying. But we finally made our way down to the water, and it was great because I was able to take my shoes off, and we put our feet in the water, and it was sort of a bubbly part with the creek. And I looked behind me, and there was this beautiful arch bridge in the distance. We didn't get up close to it, but definitely 19th century, if at least 19th century probably, bridge, very shady and mossy, and the water burbling. And we were both of us catching up on sort of what it meant to live through the last 2.5 years with our families and navigating school stuff, and it was good. It was a good start. And I didn't find actually a lot of stuff in that part of the woods because there just wasn't a whole lot there, but there were some cool rocks, so I got a few rocks. And then we went back up, and the thing about the Vanguard, they talk about how these ESG portfolios, like the holdings, like the three biggies are BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street, and that essentially the three of them working in unison, if they coordinated, they would control almost all of the voting blocks of the major corporations in the US, right? And the tricky thing about all of this is that, essentially these are set up for our retirement funds, right? Our 401ks. They take away pensions, they give you a 401k, but you're not really actively managing that 401k. They're like, put it in an index fund. And that's what the gentleman who created Vanguard in the mid 70s, his name was John Bogle. And John Bogle, that was his thing, was index funds. And if you understand an index fund is sort of also a cybernetic system, right? It's tracking against these loops. So there's a control mechanism in there, a computational control mechanism managing the portfolios. And that's what Bogle was about. I think he was born in Montclair, New Jersey, and he went to Princeton and he worked for a fund, but like most of his life was spent building up Vanguard. And it's huge now, right? Like it's one of, he's since died, but it's one of these three biggies in terms of the big guys in the space, in terms of managing what's coming next, right? Which is stakeholder capitalism, which is the ESG impact metrics, which are all about to turn us into the CIA video game or the open air prison planet or whatever, however you want to imagine that. So it's important to come out and look at Vanguard, and we weren't going to just drive in. I think there's like a gate or whatever, but we could get on this little walking trail. And we left the creek and we went up to the walking trail. And I was really curious because if you go onto Google Maps, and I'm going to write up a little blog piece about this, but if you go onto Google Maps and you look and you zoom into the Vanguard campus, you put in like Vanguard Malvern, Malvern, Pennsylvania, and it's like a bunch of the names are out of Greek mythology. So there's a Neptune building, and then on the other end there's a Leander building and a Theseus building. And the heart that I wanted to look out the Theseus building because you know me, it's me and this idea of Wall Street being the Minotaur and standing against the Minotaur, right? And so I was curious to try to see if we could get close to the Theseus building and leave a heart there and do a little intervention. And so we walked along, we kind of got to the end. There was an opening in the fence, almost as if the universe was inviting us in, and no trespassing signs near their parking garage. And so we just sort of strolled in, and we passed the Leander building. Now, the interesting thing is I hadn't remembered what Leander was, but the myth of Leander is that Hero was a young woman that was an alkalite or, aligned with Aphrodite, and she was locked up in a tower. And Leander was the young man who wanted to win her love. And then he sort of convinced her that it would be okay to, that they could have their affair because Aphrodite wouldn't mind because she totally wouldn't want her to be chased, right? And so they would carry on, and it was across Hellespont that Leander would have to swim across the strait to the tower and then climb up, and that Hero would keep a lantern in the tower, like when she was available, I guess. And so that was sort of, but then at one point, when winter came and he was swimming across, and then the lantern got snuffed out, and then he drowned. And so that was sort of the sad state of the love story of Hero and Leander. So I'm not sure what would possess Vanguard to choose Leander as the name of one of his buildings, in addition to Neptune. But Theseus was the one we went to. So we walked through, we found it's funny because again, it's just this suburban plain corporate campus, and by the time we got there were lots of people going out to lunch, so we didn't really look out of place, only I had my basket of goodies, and there was a little depression area with cattails, so I went down and I got some more cattails because I really liked fluffing around the cattails, and so we went up, I got a little photo op with the Theseus. I didn't film over there because I didn't want to make too much of a spectacle, but we made a heart on a grate, one of these sort of silver utility panels or whatever, and it had, we got the gumballs, sweet gum. We got a bunch of gumballs for the outline, and then we filled it with a cattail fluff, which is beautiful. So almost like a little furry critter in there. And then we put in sassafras leaf, which the person I met had found some sassafras that was turning, and again, that's sort of an ancient medicinal plant. And so it was bright red, and we put on some dandelions that we picked, some dandelion greens, and there were some little red fruits. I'm not sure if they're not exactly cranberries, but they're on a little ornamental tree. So we put those all around the edge, and a big sunflower on top, and some oregano, because I think oregano is sort of a nice cleansing herb. And what else did we put? We put some Thai basil. My Thai basil was going to seed, like pretty purple flowers, so I put all the purple Thai basil around. And then we still had some dandelions from Rochester, some dried ones. So we scrambled all of the dandelions over there. And, all the people are walking around us, going out to lunch and going out to their cars. And we're just like, arts and crafts, mom's arts and crafts in the landscape area, Vanguard, setting an intention. And, earlier today I had one of these sort of live streams where I'm talking about people get really agitated by me, and I'm not sure why that is, because I'm not bossing anybody around. I'm really just doing my own thing and seeing if people also think it's interesting, because I don't think that actually finding the places where this apparatus is being built by people who don't know they're building it, and trying to put a little good energetics into the space is a problem. I'm not saying it's going to fix everything. It may not fix anything. It makes me feel good. I like it. And so rather than people stewing around and like toxic sniping at each other on social media, like go out and do something that makes you happy. And this totally made me happy today that we like crafted. We just wild crafted, and this friend said that one of her children was off at forest school today. So we were doing like mom forest school, and the kid was doing forest school, and we were all intervening in the field, which I think these people know that there's stuff going on beyond our sensory capabilities. And they know that because they wouldn't be naming their buildings of the, you know, one of the top 3 largest fund portfolios in the world after Greek mythological characters if they didn't think that symbolism and semiotics and intentions mattered, because I think it actually super does matter. So, you know, I just wanted to tell you a little bit about that trip. And then, so this is the other thing. I'm sitting in the parking lot and I'm trying to get reoriented, and I'm thinking, you know, I'll put this in the blog post. But a while back, I'd actually done a map about Paoli, which is like the next town down. This is the main line of Pennsylvania, so the rich, the very affluent corridor outside of Philly, and about this Burroughs company. And the Burroughs company was originally an adding machine company, and then in the Cold War era grew to be this giant mainframe computer, defense contracting, optical electronics company. And they originally had a small building, I think, on North Broad Street in Philadelphia, but by 1954, they wanted a much larger facility. So they went out and they bought an estate out in Paoli and built a giant facility in 1954 to run these contracts. And these were largely defense. They were related to radar. They were related to missile command systems. They were related to NORAD, early monitoring systems. They were doing optical character recognition, and in fact, at some point, they got a major contract for SWIFT, right? So that's the money side. And it turns out, after their first buildings that they put up in Paoli, they were expanding so quickly, they needed a second facility. And the second one is in this Great Valley area, which is essentially like the other side of the parking lot from where I'm sitting. And it was called the Great Valley Lab for the Burroughs company. And they had big radar installations here to do simulation modeling. Sound familiar? And literally this great lab area, which has been redeveloped as a more bland, some other like non-militarized looking corporate office center, is less than a mile from Vanguard, less than a mile. And so this, like when I talk about cultural landscape, I mean, some people may not think that it matters, but I think that these things happen on purpose. They co-locate on purpose. That the fact that what is coming in this next mixed reality web environment is going to be your energetic exchange of your money is going to be tied in with this geospatial location watching system, which is also tied into biophysics, so the company behind me is Philips. It's a Philips company, and it's literally called biotelemetry. Biotelemetry, and the I in biotelemetry has all the little like arcs over it, like Wi-Fi. And so what this biotelemetry company does is that they do clinical trials and remote monitoring. So they're all about doing remote automation of monitoring biological processes, okay? Now, on their website, it says that they're monitoring 4 billion heartbeats a day. Now, we know that like the heart is a huge part of all of this. The frequency, the torus, Philips Electronics is monitoring 4 billion heartbeats, right? And for these clinical trials. And as I'm sitting in my car getting ready to figure out where to go next to come here, the person that I was with texts me and says, by the way, I just got sent this executive order from the White House that's all about biotechnology and biomanufacturing and the new bioeconomy, right? And if you've been listening to what I said about deconstructing the Biden speech, yeah, that's what's coming. Like literally, they're going to build a bioeconomy in your body, and it's all going to be run from space with the biotelemetry, and it's built on money systems and prediction and modeling, which is what these giant portfolio companies are doing. So, you know, I don't know if it matters that I'm coming out and telling people these things, because this is the rich part of Philadelphia. This is where the nice NPR listening people live, who get the 6-figure salaries, who like, you know, I don't know, they come out, they ride their bikes, they're healthy, the grounds are lovely, and they're, you know, they're all landscaped, and they have nice boulders, and it all looks so attractive, and yet this is what's coming if we don't look, like if we can't look. And, you know, when I was a kid, my parents were pursuing the American dream. You know, they were first generation college and making their way, and my dad had a job in corporate America, and you know, they were doing the like buy the starter home and then try to level up in the suburbs. I always grew up in the suburbs, you know. Now I've been in the city since the mid 90s, but I was a suburban kid. Like we were always moving to the neighborhoods where they had the next set of popsicle trees, and you know, the other kids were, their parents worked for IBM or GE or whatever. Like it was pop-up culture, it was this corporate culture, and we were never like meant to really think about it. But I always loved like even in these popsicle stick yards, like there were always edge places. There were these edge places. And so, and like when you're a kid, an edge place, something like a strip of woods, like we called it the woods, that might be like 30 feet wide, like not much. Like that would be a whole world. That would be a whole secret world. And like we would just go run, like in the 70s, you know, kids, like you could just run the neighborhoods. And, you know, not that my mom was irresponsible. That's just what you did. You got out your, you know, your, what are those things? It's not the four-wheelers, the big wheels. You got your big wheels, you went down the driveway, and then you went in the woods, and you did these things, and you explored. And like I have these memories of going to like even just a ditch with a bunch of boulders, like just, and they weren't even fancy boulders, like a stormwater ditch, and just playing in the ditch for hours, and like finding quartz and thinking it was the most amazing thing ever. Like, do you see quartz in the rocks and the crayfish? And you know, these aren't pristine streams. This was like a storm sewer in the suburbs, but it was magical for me. Like, and we'd go into the woods, which is a little other edge place, and they had big vines. You could jump on the vines. You would find the nature, and like that's what the next generation isn't going to have. They're not going to have that. And you know, Robin Wall Kimmerer, I talk about her a lot. You know, about her, this idea of gratitude and acknowledging the natural world, and that it doesn't have to be deep wilderness. Like you can acknowledge it even in a corporate office park. And you make the world with what you imagine. You make the world that the story you live in, which is, again, why I keep thinking that these artificial societies are so toxic, because they tend to reinforce with negative feedback loops, like really toxic cultural paradigms. But you can choose a different story, and you can even choose to come to the corporate office park. And like tomorrow, I'm going to go to some Bell Labs place. I don't know which ones I'll make it to tomorrow. But you know, I came out today thinking, like, I'm not sure. Like I got distracted this morning doing that live stream, which like was frustrating, and I wasn't as prepared, and my basket wasn't well stocked, and I wasn't sure what I would find out here. But the thing is, if you trust in the world, you walk out and it's there for you. Like there's walnuts, there's sassafras leaves, there's gumballs, there's cattails, like all of this in a stupid corporate office park. And so I come here and I'm like, oh, I need to make another heart, but I'm not sure. We used up other stuff. Are we going to have enough? And again, all of the cyberneticists, all of the people who want to tell us that we have to live in a limited world of limited opportunities and control systems because everything is limited, they can't live in a world of creativity. And so I'm thinking, like, do I have enough to make a heart here? Like, what am I going to put on the edge? Like, I need enough to make an edge here. And I thought, well, that's okay. I'll just go look here. Let me go take a picture of the biotelemetry sign, and I'll see what's out there. And, you know, if you have the eyes to see it, it's there. And so as I'm walking by, there's a beautiful oak tree. I'm not sure if you can see it. Yeah, there it is. You can see the sign behind me and the oak tree there. And so I'm like, and a lot of times oak trees, they don't have anything. They don't have, the acorns aren't ready, but they had like really nice acorns, both the ones with the caps, and they had a whole bunch without the caps. I don't know, can you see? Yeah, you can see. Can you see the caps, right? And so again, it's just, it was there for me. And I was like, oh great, caps, that's perfect. And like the thing about these caps is like, this is not cybernetic, right? Like, I don't know how to make you see it better. This is nature's cap. This is nature's circle. Like, and yeah, they're all similar, but they're unique, like us, right? And the scales on the back, like that's this natural pattern making, the spiral, the fractal, right? Like that's where the magic is, in that. And you know, it can even be here in a stupid office park, if you can have the eyes to look for it. And so the other thing is, there's like these, look at that, like this cool fungus, right? It was under the boulder, right? There was this one, and then there was this one, and and this one. So we've got this connectivity. And as I was driving, because this is about 45 minutes from my house, an hour maybe, with traffic. I'm driving out here and I'm still listening to the Orson Scott Card books. And literally, he's talking to the Hive Queen and about because he's trying to get access to some new technology, and he's trying to understand the Hive Queen. And he's really amazed because he thought that the Hive Queen was a individual, and it wasn't an individual. Literally, the Hive Queen was like a collective consciousness that was called to in another dimension. And he's like, how do you do it? How do you do it? I need to know how to do it. And she's like, I mean, like, how does your pancreas work? How do you think about breathing? We don't think about it. We don't have words for it. We have this intention in the world. We reach for it. We reach in that space, and I think we can get there. And it comes from the beyond. And I think that's these phyllotes, that's these phyllotic twinings. And darn it, like, again, I'm not saying that we live in a science fiction book, but I'm here to believe that there is some dimensionality beyond which our limited equipment can perceive, and that we can call on it and it can be natural, and we can call on that natural beyond power to help us stand up to this ridiculousness of this Biden bioeconomy, right? Who do these people think they are? How many mistakes have scientists made over the years? How many things did they get wrong? Lots of things, lots and lots of things. And now they're gonna like create a bioeconomy of molecular engineering for sustainability. My God, if I still have any friends out there who still think of themselves as green and progressive, I hope you will understand that as abomination. Like, that is a profanity on the natural world, to think that you can just do molecular engineering like that, and like that you have control over these systems. You don't have, these people don't have controls, they're jokers. So anyway, that's what I've got here in Great Valley. It's fascinating to me to make this connection between Vanguard's campus, and again, this is the main campus of Vanguard, and this location, which was the center of these radar installations for Burroughs, that was both doing defense contracting, radar, prediction modeling, lighting, NORAD. Guys, the Cold War was not at all what we were told. The Cold War was for the bioeconomy. That's what the Cold War was for. When Biden wants to have his cancer moonshot, what is the meme going around? Oh, we're the carbon they want to reduce, right? No, the cancer, humanity is the cancer, literally. Like, the cancer treatment is to eliminate natural human life as we know it. Like, that's the plan with all of these modular nuclear power plants that they're going to come up with and tell us they're sustainable. So don't buy this nonsense, and just, again, don't fall for it. And we don't have to be nihilistic. I'm not here, this woman who had such an issue with me, like, I can't imagine how she must think I'm so dangerous that I'm sitting out here with acorn caps. Like, because clearly some people must think I'm dangerous with acorn caps, and so maybe we should just do some more acorn caps. Like, I'm not saying you should only do acorn caps and fungi and like dandelions, but it's not going to hurt anything, and it might help, right? Because I'm pretty sure this machine is built where almost like anybody's hometown has part of it. So yeah, if they need to imagine I'm a rat or a snake or being paid by the FBI to come out and put acorn caps on a rock, then there must be definitely something to what I'm doing. And you know what? It's fun and it keeps you happy. So anyway, I'm just here in a corporate parking lot, you know. And as ridiculous as it sounds, I'm trying to not let the nanotechnologists and the systems theorists and the people just doing their jobs and getting out, going to lunch at the, the burrito place and then going back to build the prison, that they'll stop maybe and think about it. Like, let's all go play in the woods for a while and get reacclimated to what it means to really be alive. So, bye everybody.